Reed Desert Boy here. Well, we're going to take a few minutes here and we're going to talk about maybe winter carry. I already had a little intro short talking about, using my 357 LCR. So let's take a look at what I've got here in front of me. And I'm sure a lot of you are looking around and going, boy, that looks like a mess when you see it. Yeah, but most of us are. Some of us are real neat with our workbenches. Some of us are things are a little more messy. So with that in mind, let's take a look. So once again, we'll check all these as we go through it and talk about it, and we'll talk about why. But what do I have out here in front? Well, let's start at the back over here. This is a Springfield Armory 1911 A1 and a Gideon Pocket magazine carrier that's a 45 ACP. So that is one alternative, but let's go over here to the other table. And we'll start at the back. This is a Ruger Security 6 in the Galco VHS 4.0 shoulder holster with the speed loader carriers. This is a clone of a Browning high power. This is the SDS Inglis P-35, and it's in a World War supply holster, shoulder holster. It's a 9mm. This is the Ruger LCR I talked about, and it's got a K-clip R from Zeta 6. This is my Sig Sauer SP 2022 9mm with a spare mag, and this is my Smith & Wesson 686 Plus in a Galco silhouette holster, and this is my Rossi M720 in 44 Special. Now it does fit this holster and some of my other ones, as does the Ruger, can fit over here as well. But we'll talk a little bit about why I have these and why I would think they would be good for winter carry. So for winter carry, what I started with in the discussion, and I use a type of small Galco outside the waistband, though I also have an inside the waistband one from Crossbreed. I talked about using the Ruger LCR 357 Magnum. As you can see, this is unloaded. So what does this do for me? Well, this gives me a compact gun that I can shoot, 38 plus P and 357 in with a nice set of grips that absorbs recoil and has a nice double action trigger. They are different than how J-frames work. They're more where you don't stage them as much, but just pull through them, and you have to let them reset, or you could have it try to skip around almost, if you have to be careful with that part of it. But very versatile, fairly lightweight. I think this weighs in about 17.1 or 0.4 ounces. And I've had this one for a long time. I like it very much. I use the Zeta 6 K-clip R, which also fits, the J-clip R. I think I said K-clip R, which means R is for Ruger. And so it's 5-rounder, and these work very well. And sometimes I do carry a sim strip, which allows me to do like tactical reloads. I can do 2 or 1 at a time. So anyway, that's what makes this good. Concealability, versatile power, and it's one of the guns, generally when you're picking out things, they should be things you shoot very well. I don't change all the time, but it's just kind of options to do, okay? But this would be a good one for winter carry when switching over from my Colt Agent, which is my normal EDC nowadays. Okay, so other revolvers. Let's go ahead and skip over to the other revolvers. If I really want more power, I have this nice Galco high ride holster, right? Fits on the belt. It also fits in that Galco shoulder holster. We can show you that this is 357 Magnum. What's the nice thing about this? Well, it's 7 rounds because it's a 686 plus, right? It's got a 3-inch barrel, shoots very accurately, has a complete wraparound type grip, which helps absorb the recoil, and you can shoot loads up to 180 grain, what I would consider bear loads. I think they consider bear loads like from companies like HSM in here all the way down to your jacketed hollow points, you know, whether they're like 125 or 135 grain. So very versatile in that way. It is a little heavy. It's about at least 36 ounces. So you got to be able to put up with that part of it. So it gives you more power, a little more accuracy because it's got a longer barrel, but still has some concealability because it's only a 3-inch. So what about the next revolver I would probably consider? And I can tell you that those first two are most likely the revolvers that I would be using. And oftentimes in the shoulder holster, which we'll talk about next. So we have the Ruger here in the shoulder holster. Here's your ammunition carrier in here. Carries 2 speed loaders. In here, as you take your gun out here, we'll go ahead and open it up to show that it's empty. This is a Ruger Security 6. It's got a 4-inch barrel, gives me more accuracy. When you got all the one thing that leads to a lot of this is you got all these jackets on. I meant to have on, and maybe at the end of this I'll put on what I normally have on when it's really cold and snowy and wet out there. And reaching in to access a shoulder holster mounted firearm is sometimes easier than trying to get your jackets and things up to reach your strong side carry. And maybe even, a cross drop might even be a little easier. But this one here, once again, this is a 357 Magnum. It can shoot all the different ammunition, just like the 686 Plus. These are older guns. Most people nowadays, if they had a newer gun in this class from Ruger, it'd be a GP100. But I really do like these. They really shoot nicely. And it fits in this holster, as does my 686 Plus. Gives you the versatility of having a shoulder holster so you can access it without having to pull up all your heavy clothing that you have around your firearm sometimes. Now also, this fits the high-rise holster. This is the Rossi M720. This is a 44 Special. Okay, now why would I have a 44 Special? And this is only 5 rounds. The Ruger Security 6 was 6 rounds. Well, that gives you a little more power it perhaps for the self-protection kind of situation. But I was able to find some Buffalo Bore outdoorsman type loads, which would also give you some protection against dangerous game, and you can still fire a larger cartridge. Usually, your maximum usually in a 357 is going to be 180 grains. You could probably go up to 200 or 210 grains with a 44 Special, and it doesn't have the recoil that the Magnum does. And so, nice gun. It's about 27 ounces. It's got good grips that come all the way around, and you know, once again, DASA for reloads. I didn't show with my my Smith & Wesson 686 Plus, but I have 7-round speed loaders for that. For reloads for this one, I also have 5-round speed loaders, but sometimes I carry it in a case like this because I can carry about 18 rounds in there. Not as fast to reload as a speed loader, but with one speed loader and then that, carrying it, say, in your back pocket gives you a little extra ammo, and you can have different kinds, like and I do that with my speed loaders where I have 2. Sometimes I'll have like dangerous game one and like self-protection type ammo in the other speed loader. So just something to think about. So this year I have the option of trying out carrying the P-35, which is the Browning high power clone, and this magazine has no ammunition in it. The gun is empty, as we can see. And this gives me a 9mm with a 4.7-inch barrel versus, say, the next one I'm going to show you, right? So it gives me a little longer barrel. It's a little heavier. Yeah, it comes in at about 30 ounce. Well, it's about the same weight as the other one, but it's an all metal frame. And if you really like the single action only trigger, that makes it really nice. This has a green fiber front sight, and it can hold 15 rounds in the magazine in the state I live in. You have to check and see what your local, state, and federal firearms laws are for you. And this particular holster from World War Supply holds a 15-round magazine as well. So that will be another option for me this year when I get more comfortable with it, because I really only had it to the range one time. I haven't even posted that video yet. This is probably my most likely 9mm I would carry. We the People holster, inside the waistband, Sig Sauer SP 2022, magazine is empty. I usually have as largest capacity I can put in there for what's allowable here where I live at. It's empty, as you can see. This is an SADA, so it's equipped with a decocker. It has a rail if I wanted to put a light on there or something like that. It's got night sight, so it has the most versatility. It's only about 29 ounces compared to my P226 Mark 25, and sometimes I actually shoot it quite a bit better. Well, not quite a bit, but I feel a little more comfortable shooting, and I shoot it better than my P226 Mark 25. It's got plenty of nice stippling. It's got a nice big trigger guard, because remember, I may have gloves on here where I'm at, and that's something you got to think about as well when you're in kind of a colder weather environment. So that is a 9mm. In some places, they do make models of that. They don't make them anymore off the production line, but so you can find those in 40. And I would be remiss, of course, if I didn't include my 1911 A1 from Springfield Armory. This is a stainless steel Mil-Spec. There's no rounds in the magazine, we can see. Usually would have an 8-round magazine in there. We can see it's empty. This is in the neighborhood of about 39 ounces. So this is pretty heavy to be carrying around, but you get the 5-inch barrel, gives you a nice sight radius. The 45 ACP is heavier, because remember, now we've got all this heavy clothing on, and I don't know how much the air density affects performance of the rounds. That's maybe something some of the other gun channels. I know people like Gun Sam, Revolver Aficionado. You know, he explores a lot of those kind of things, and just gives you a little more oomph, because you're going to get a 230 grain round, or maybe a 200. I don't know, depending on what you want to use. If you want more muzzle velocity or more mass. And they also make some Plus P outdoorsman type rounds for these as well. I use this Galco King Tuck usually, and inside the waistband holster with it. And I use this Gideon pocket magazine carrier. So that kind of outlines to you what I would use probably for winter carry. Most likely I would stick with my revolvers in most cases, unless I really thought I needed the extra capacity. And then I would probably go to my SP 2022, because that's my most frequently carried almost full-size 9mm. But most of the time I'm going to be carrying something like this for my environment. Once again, you have to evaluate, you know, where do you live at? You know, is your neighborhood fairly low crime, maybe no crime? You're just running down to the store, are you going out at night, or are you traveling cross country between areas where there might be, you know, wild animals? Now, of course, animals do hibernate and things, but that doesn't mean you can't run across things or be in a bad situation where you maybe need more power with a larger round. So anyway, I just wanted to share that with you. I hope you find that informative. I would be interested to know what you might carry for winter carry, and give me just a moment and I'll show you what I usually have on when I'm out, when it's really miserable out, in addition to all my thermals, hunting thermals underneath. In a really extreme situation, and you might even have a balaclava on over this, or I might have my beard tucked in, and I'd be zipped up more. I'd have these gloves on, and just to reach in and get my firearm, I may have to take my glove off for just a moment. You have to think about that. And I could reach in here and find my firearm and pull it out. You know, as you can see there, that was almost blocking my vision, so I'd probably have it back. And just for purposes, I'll show you this is still unloaded. But you can see we're reaching in there, for example. It's probably a little easier than maybe even trying to get, I gotta get this up, and finally get my firearm out, right? As you can see, this is still unloaded as well. But I just wanted to show you, and of course I've got on an extra vest that maybe I wouldn't have on. I'd probably just have the exterior jacket on along with my thermals. But the other part is, once you got it out, right, you're probably going to have to put your finger in here, right, to fire it. That trigger guard is not quite as large as, say, this trigger guard. This one's a little larger, but it's even hard to fit in there. That's why sometimes I think really a lot about having a shoulder holster for this guy, which is still has no mag and is unloaded, right? Because this one has a bigger trigger guard. I can get my finger in there, right? And to try to shoot the gun, right? So things to think about that I never would have thought about before I was somewhere where it was colder. Usually I'm not going to be out if it's really that bad. Most of us are going to stay in, but sometimes you do have to deal with it. And so just things to think about. And I'm a new person here. I haven't lived here all my life in Montana. People here, they're used to this. They've been doing this for years, but still things to think about, you know. Once again, so you saw how it was for me to try to get that out of the shoulder holster or out of here. You know, that's why some people, I think, maybe even will carry pocket carry. They use a pocket carry holster on the exterior so they can get to something as well. So that would be another alternative for something like this with a nice, say, a Nemesis pocket holster. You could keep it in your pocket and make it a little more accessible. So, as Desert Boy always says, be safe out there, whatever you're doing. Bye now.